His Grace Archbishop Thomas, the Chairman of the Board of Governors, Mr. Kahiers, Mrs. Kahiers, Board of Governors, the DSI, Mr. Ngwenya, officials from the Ministry of Education, Chair Lady of the SDC, Mrs. Duff and Mr. Duff, the SDC Executive, the CBC Administration, Mr. Thompson, Christian Brothers, Father Moyo, the CBC staff, invited guests, parents, friends, young men of CBC. All protocol is observed. Before I begin my address, I'd just like to acknowledge a very special person. To my wife, thank you for always being supportive. Thank you for keeping up with my demanding and busy schedule. And thank you for agreeing to do this trip with me. To the college, thank you, Mrs. Tili Mate, who found me online somewhere. I don't know where, but found me somewhere. And to Mr. Muhomba for the invitation to come and speak here today. It is such an honor and a privilege to stand in front of you today, 23 years later. I could never have imagined myself standing here addressing the young man of CBC as I was at one time sitting where you are sitting right now, and how time flies. I was sitting exactly where some of you young men are sitting some years ago, listening to some old Bali or some old Stopi, whatever you call it, trying to address us and give us a speech on life and everything. I just want to qualify today, I'm not an old Stopi. So, what good memories I have of CBC, from running down sports tunnels onto a sports field with the whole college cheering behind you, to the memories of getting on our bicycles with my friends, cycling to girls' college to visit some chicks. To the memories of us sending letters to the girls via some little brother who would be at CBC somewhere. I still feel sorry for those little brothers that had to carry those letters back and forth on a weekly basis. But I wish to categorically state, before I get into trouble, none of those girls were as beautiful as my wife. My message today is a message not only for the boys of CBC, but for everyone who is here, whether you're a parent, a teacher, a student, or an invited guest. This is a message I haven't shared on any platform, and I've been privileged to be on many platforms and to share different messages, but this message is special to me. This message is a personal message and a gift from me to you. So I'm going to need you to pay attention, and I'm going to need you to be responsive. So feel free to clap or cheer during my speech so that I know that you're still with me. This message is going to change somebody's life or many lives within this room. And it's going to equip some people here today going forward. So I'm going to share a little bit about myself, about my journey. So the story goes a little something like this. In 1995, I walked into CBC as a young man from a small neighborhood called Kingsdale, coming from a little school called Newmansford Primary. I wasn't coming from a Whitestone, a Petra, Masia Pambili, or any of the other big names. No one knew that school, and naturally, I felt I didn't fit in, and I felt I didn't belong. How many of you have ever felt like that when you walked onto a sports field or walked into any place and felt intimidated and felt like the task was too big for you? I'm sure a lot of you would raise your hands today to that fact. I was at CBC on a bursary where my mom's company was paying for my school fees because I had good grades from primary and I'd worked hard to get to where I got to. I walked into CBC with nothing but my school bag and a heart full of dreams. I remember in Form 1 sitting amongst the other young men of CBC and telling them I was going to be a prefect one day and I was going to get honors one day. And lo and behold, they laughed at me. Some even teased me and called me ridiculous for having that dream. But I still held on to those dreams, despite everyone's words or whatever else they had to say. As the years progressed, I pursued my dreams. I worked hard and I played hard. And very important, work hard and play hard as well. A balance in life is very essential. You can't just work all the time. You need some play as well. Along the way, there were victories, but there were also disappointments. Moments of failures, sometimes moments of things not going as expected. And during those times, I had to pick myself up, pray, and move on. In 1998, I remember I was in Form 4 at that time, and I had worked hard and everybody was convinced. Some of the teachers were convinced, my friends, my fellow students were convinced that I would be called to become a prefect at CBC. But, in those days what used to happen is we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have any of the fancy stuff that you guys have today. So we all used to rush home because the 2 days before speech nights like this, and you'd be rushing home, waiting in anticipation for the headmaster to call you to say, congratulations, you've been nominated to be a prefect, and would you like to take up the opportunity? And unfortunately, in that year, I did not become a prefect. I was disappointed, and many others were disappointed with me. However, that didn't stop me. I became more determined to prove them wrong. Instead of giving up, I pressed on and worked even harder. And in 1999, I went on to become a prefect. I went on to become a captain of several sports. I was a house captain. I was an Interact vice president. I was an academic. And yes, I did receive the honors that I told everyone that I would get. I remember going home and telling my parents just after the assembly where I was presented with honors that I've been presented with this award, and I now had to change places. And disappointingly, because of the situation, I didn't come from a well-off family, I came from an average family. My parents told me they could not afford the blazer. So what I did is I started looking for part-time jobs online, part-time jobs within the holiday time. And what happened is I got a little job at the trade fair to be a messenger and to do all sorts of other things during that school holiday. I worked hard, did the job, and at the end of it I got paid. After I got paid, I took the money that I received from that job and I went and bought my honors blazer. This is the same honors blazer that I'm wearing today. As I mentioned, I had many leadership roles whilst at CBC. And in those roles, I began to discover some talents which I still use up until today. Namely, the power to encourage my teammates and the power to have empathy towards others. In as much as I worked hard on myself, I worked hard in helping others to succeed and to see their dreams on and off the field. After school, I had a huge blow. Like many other students, I had a dream that I would leave the country, go to university and study for a degree. But unfortunately, my parents could not afford for me to go to university, and I received the sad news. I had received offers from WITS, from UCT and other places in South Africa, but I couldn't go. So I remained behind and watched as my friends left the country. However, I did not give up. I went on to apply for a position at Ernst & Young, right here in Bulawayo, and I worked and studied there. I did my UNISA, did my degree, studied with them, and as the saying goes, when life gives you lemons, you make what? Lemonade. So I have a question for you today. What if I told you today that despite your failures, despite your disappointments, or despite things not going your way, all those things were supposed to happen to build something in you and to prepare you for something bigger? What if I told you that God is not done with you yet? I'm here to tell you that life will not always be smooth. Things will not always go your way, but God will always be on your side and never give up. And now back to my story. So I leave school, I'm in articles, and even in articles I'm setting dreams, and my dream at that time was to travel the world and to one day be a big FD or CFO of a big company somewhere. So I continued working on my dreams. I finished my articles and then went on to work here in Zimbabwe as a finance manager at Samuel Osborne for a bit, before then receiving an opportunity to go to the Virgin Islands, which is one of the most beautiful places I've been to in the world. Being there enabled me to travel the world. I was able to travel the US, the Caribbean, Europe, and other places. And here's the kicker to it all. I would not have received that opportunity to work in the Virgin Islands had I not done my articles here and had I not met the people that I met in my journey here. Because those people helped open the doors for me, which eventually led to me going to the Virgin Islands. During my time in the Virgin Islands, I got to audit some big clients, which were cell phone network providers, the Virgin Islands Electricity Company, amongst other big companies. Here's the second kicker. Those opportunities with the cell phone providers and the electricity company helped me get a job in South Africa as an executive at CCOM, which is one of the largest fiber internet companies in Africa. CCOM was the first company to bring fiber internet to Africa. What we did at CCOM is we put a cable, we lay a cable, fiber cable in the sea. So most people sometimes believe that internet comes from satellites and whatnot, but a lot of your internet is through fiber, which goes through fiber cables, and the fiber eventually lands up in the sea somewhere to transmit those messages or emails or whatever else you need to transmit. During my time there, we worked on some very nice and very cool projects like VoIP, fiber to the home, and all sorts of different things. From CCOM, I went on to Bidvest Electrical. Again, because of my experience in the Virgin Islands in auditing the electricity corporation, I was able to secure that job. And while CCOM dealt with cables carrying the internet, Bidvest Electrical was dealing with cables that transmitted electricity and carried electricity. So, besides all this work, what do I do in my spare time? I spend my time with family, mostly doing fun things and adventurous things. I play golf in my spare time. I do a little farming. I've got a farm in South Africa as well. I do a little farming on the weekends. I also do quite a bit of volunteer work. I serve in the church, And even during school, I held positions such as Interact Vice President, and I taught at night school. All these things keep me humble and help me count my blessings. It helps me reach back to others and helps me to always remember that when you're at the top, you need to reach back and pull someone else up. Some of you have questions like, what is the relevance of my story? Where am I going to with all of this? Some of you have questions about how I've been able to do all that I've done and achieve all that I've achieved. The point of my story was so that I could speak to you and give you something relatable, give you something that you could feel, so that it's not some pep talk that you hear on the internet, on Instagram, or some wishy-washy fairy textbook item, but something real from someone's experience, someone who grew up in the same shoes that you are in right now. So I'm going to share some key lessons which will help every one of you, no matter who you are. Number one, have dreams and set goals. If you remember, I told you in Form 1, I had a dream to be a prefect and to get my honors. In articles, I had a dream to travel the world and become a director of a major company one day. Those dreams came true. The universe gives you what you put out there, and God always directs those dreams. And here's a trick that I learned from some of the top leaders that I've been able to come across in the world. Write your dreams down somewhere. Not on your cell phone, but actually write them down on a piece of paper somewhere. I write my dreams down, and I keep them on the wall next to my bed. And some of those dreams have affirmations next to them. I repeat these affirmations to myself every morning. Affirmations like, I am successful, I am a leader, I'm going to change the world. So even if you don't believe what you are saying, or are just repeating it every morning and don't believe in it, the point is, at the end of the day, the universe will answer to what you put out there. So always put your dreams first. Number two, purpose. Now this is a word often thrown around by many people. It's a difficult word because many people don't find their purpose in life until later on in life. But what I will say to you is, in everything you do, you need to have a bigger purpose than yourself. You need to have a bigger cause than yourself. One of the greatest lessons you will learn in life is that leadership is not about self. Leadership is actually a call to serve. And in the previous philosophies, for those of you that like history, the previous philosophies would have told you the leaders who are rough and tough and pushed everyone were the leaders that make it. Unfortunately, in today's world, those leaders are not the leaders that make it, and they are not the leaders that last. The people that make a difference are those who see themselves as a vessel for the greater good. Those who lift up their teammates when they're down. Those who have empathy towards their colleagues and teammates. This expands to companies too. At CCOM, our drive was not to make money. Our drive was to empower the African people through the provision of connectivity and providing internet, even to the most remote areas in different places. And now at Bidvest Electrical, we recently expanded into solar and renewable energy. And our drive is to power the homes, provide energy and electricity to homes, to workplaces, especially now with all the rampant load shedding that's going on. So my point is, you will always succeed if your drive is for the greater good and not just yourself. Number three, have faith. Most of the greatest leaders in the world today believe in a power greater than themselves. Listen to me. You are not going to get very far if you don't have faith and if the only thing that you believe in is yourself. Raymond Edman had a quote which says, "Faith makes the outlook good, the outlook bright, the inlook favorable, and the future glorious." I have no doubt, and I make no apology, that without God, I would not have achieved all that I have achieved today. Because when the chips are down and when things are not going your way, it is that faith and that belief that will pull you through and lift you up. Even when you want to do something never done before, it is that faith and that vision to see beyond the natural, to see beyond what seems impossible to everyone. That is the faith that will lead you to be a great leader, a great innovator, to be able to see beyond what is possible. There are two verses from the Bible which are dear to me. Philippians 4 verse 13, "I can do all things through him who strengthens me." And Jeremiah 29 verse 11, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future." Number 4, be flexible and resilient. Some of you sitting in this room today are studying subjects that you didn't want to study. Some of you may not get the grades that you expect to get. Along the way, you will get disappointments or things will not go your way. I thought I was going to university to study law. I ended up in the accounting field. And look where I am today. So you need to keep going even when things don't go your way, and you need to be flexible to what the world offers you. The world we live in is dynamic and constantly changing. Remember I told you earlier, we used to send letters to brothers, and we used to cycle to girls' college, etc. Fast forward to today. I don't think some of you know how to write a letter. You guys have the internet, WhatsApp, Facebook, TikTok, the list goes on. So the world that we live in today requires you to be flexible. And number 5, give 100% to everything that you do. Whatever you set your mind on, you can achieve. The mind is the most powerful tool that we possess. And yet we only use a small fraction or a small portion of it. If you tell yourself that you can do something, you've gone past 50% of the fight. However, if you tell yourself that you're not going to make it, you're not going to achieve anything. You've lost half the war already. Some of the greatest examples I have was during school, I had a classmate called Musa Katuli here at CBC. Musa was an average athlete from Form 1. He didn't win much and didn't do much in the sporting field up until Form 4. In Form 4, he decided he had a dream to be one of the fastest runners within the country. No one believed him. No one thought he could do it. So he trained silently away from everyone, trained silently away from the noise. And in lower 6, Musa went on to smash the 100-meter record and set the school record. He also went on to compete at the Zimbabwe Nationals. This was possible because he set his mind on it and worked hard to achieve his goal. Usain Bolt is another example. For most of you, you only know Usain after he started running the 100 meters and 200 and became famous. But if you look at history, Usain was never a 100-meter runner, nor did he take athletics seriously. But he trained and set his mind on becoming the best. And today, he's one of the greatest athletes to have ever lived. This is why you see many companies investing in mental health of their teams and their executives. Even sports teams like the Springboks, the All Blacks, they spend at least half their time training, just looking at mental health and mental stimulation of the team. And only half the time is spent practicing on the field, because that's how powerful the mind is. Hence, I said to you earlier, the mind is the most powerful tool that everyone has. And then, second thing is, you need to be careful who you surround yourself with and who you associate with. And in these days, I'd like to warn you, not everything you see on social media is real. A lot of you have Instagram and probably follow many influencers or whatever you want to call them. But I want to challenge you today to actually look at who you're following. Look at what it is that they do. Look at what their success is. Some of this you'll tend to find is often not real. The people only show the good side of their lives, and you don't see the bad. You only see a micro portion of their life. So I encourage you to be careful on who you follow or who you idolize and look up to. In closing, I wish you all well in your futures and in everything that you do. I thank you for this opportunity, for allowing me to share my story with you. I hope you are encouraged by this message of hope, because that's what I titled it, a message of hope. And even if you didn't pick up on everything I said, and even if you picked up on one thing, I trust that that one thing will help you in your journey going forward. To the winners of the awards today, congratulations and well done. I say to you today, be proud of your achievements, but remain humble. And remember to reach back and encourage your classmates or teammates who did not win, for that is the sign of a true winner. To those who are hoping to win and didn't win, I say to you, keep your head up. The race is not finished yet. The journey is long and the journey is hard. Life is not a sprint, but is a marathon with many highs and lows, and you need to navigate them carefully. I wrote this statement, which I'd like all the young men of CBC to repeat with me. So I'm going to ask all the young men of CBC to stand up and repeat it after me. Are you ready? I am great. I am strong. I am good. I will face my challenges head on. And I will say to them, I will not be defeated. I will succeed. I will leave no man behind. Virilita Ajay. Thank you.